There's something so brilliant about regulating your nervous system. And I like to compare it to, I was thinking about how I actually have this formula that I recommend to parents to help their kids, right, who are socially anxious and kind of they're looking for help, like, helping their kids have conversations. And this formula really is, the first step is neutralize the fear, right? So go to zero, right? So when we have fear, right, we're not in a state of neutrality, right? So the fear like causes highs and lows and registers like, these things as an experience. Whereas actually a conversation is the same thing as brushing your teeth, using the bathroom, taking a shower, getting on the bus to school in the morning, right? But then it's like, you have to raise your hand in class, and then it's like, it's like a low or like a stressful situation, right? And then it registers as like, something, right, an experience in your day, which really it's something that stands out because there's fear associated with it. And so I realized that this actually applies to my own life, right? Because if there's fear, right, then the first thing that I should be doing is bringing myself to a state of zero, right? So go to zero, right? Take yourself to zero, and whatever you need to do to take yourself to zero, only you know what that is, right? So if you have to express or build something or work for the first 3 hours of the day, right, or 4 hours or 5, like even, right, if you need a full day of creating, building, connecting, right, talking to people, right, and that just happens to be in the form of work or however you build or create that structure, right, do it, right? And that actually regulates your nervous system, because from a regulated place, then you are better able to interact with people, right? Whether that's your mother, your mother-in-law, your partner, your children, your family, anybody, right? Just literally anybody. This is why work is so important, because what happens when we work is we're projecting our conscious, right? What we know to be true, right? It's easier to project that, right, than it is to like, maybe like, interact with our loved ones first thing in the day. Like, believe it or not, right, if somebody genuinely is not a safe place, right, is not a safe person in your life, and you have to be regulated and emotionally stable in yourself for that person, then you already know, like, I have to take care of myself, especially if I live with them, right? So if I live with my mom who's dysregulated, or my kids who just easily are always in a dysregulated state, right, I have to make sure that I'm regulated. I have to make sure that I'm at my best, and so the first step that I always recommend to parents, and now that I'm thinking about for myself, right, I literally was just thinking about it today on my way home from the gym, because I didn't follow my routine today. And so I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is literally the conversation that I had 2 days ago with a parent, where I was telling her like go to zero, right? Like, help your child, neutralize their fear and take them to the zero state, which is the state of neutrality, right? And then once you're in this state, right, and really for a parent or an adult dealing with a child or anybody else, right, you have to take care of yourself. That's what that means, right? You take care of yourself to then help the other person. So whatever that looks like for you, whatever that self-care looks like for you, whatever regulates your nervous system and puts you in the optimal state, right? And so the second step is build to 100, right? So once I'm at a state of neutrality, a regulated nervous system, then I can learn, then I can build, and I can create, right? Then I can really take it to 100, right? But first I have to get myself to that optimal state, to that state of neutrality. And the third step really is to lead at 100, right? So you build, right? You're building at zero, right? You build to 100, and then once you're at 100, right, that's when you lead. That's when you attain mastery, right? That's when you can teach, coach, and serve and help other people. But so many of us just get stuck, because guess what? This is a 3-step process, and many of us never go to zero. We never go to the zero state. We're always living and functioning at a less than optimal state. We're living our conditioning, our fear-based programming, right? Our survival brain is like fully in function, like 90% of the day, which is not, we cannot counteract and override the fear which operates as us, right? We can't do that, right? Unless we actually like do the things and regulate our nervous system, right? Do the things that we need to in order to put ourselves in a state of neutrality, right? And in a state of neutrality, there's clarity, there's presence, right? I'm here more, right? I'm not lost in my head. And if you relate to like just noise or distraction, right, mental suffering, anything where there's just noise up here, right? And it's especially important because that when you actually are in your optimal state, you don't experience that noise. And so step one, right, go to zero. And then once you're at the state of zero, right, that's when you can really, have an impact on other people, right? But before that, it's very, very difficult. And so I guess life is about, like, the first 3 hours of the day really are about taking care of yourself so that you can be in a state of neutrality, right? And then you can go about your day and have the conversations that you need, interact with the people that you need to, or that you always do on a daily basis, right? And then you're actually better for it. Those interactions also add and contribute to you. They are like they're fruitful to you. They actually add to your joy and happiness instead of doing the opposite. And think about how crazy that is, right? Like, without a regulated nervous system, you can't enjoy those conversations, right? And they actually are like, they cause you to suffer. They're like a weapon. Your mind is a weapon that is turned against you if you don't regulate your nervous system. So that second thing, right? Build to 100, right? That's maybe when we are at a regulated nervous system, then it's like, oh, I can actually build. I can actually think about the things that I want to move forward in my life, right? Like, for me, like when I'm in the state of clarity, then I can actually work on, my partner's company or the projects that I need to actually work on. But I can't do that because before I'm actually, before it's just me trying to regulate my nervous system and actually just be here, right? Get out of my head, which is a huge process for me. That takes about 3 hours in the morning. Right? And that's why I have all this video recorded. That's why I have a podcast. That's why I have social media content, because I need to create in order to regulate my nervous system. I need to hear the sound. My body needs to hear the sound of my voice. I need to actually express. And that's really like the connection to myself. And so I need to do that for like a good 3 hours, maybe even more, for me to get to the state, maybe even 5 hours, right? And then I can actually work on, like, okay, then I can make calls, then I can, do. But the first thing that I probably have to do, right, is really focus on what I'm extremely passionate and interested about, and then the projects that I'm not as committed to or devoted to, as in, like, my passion doesn't really lie as much in those things, right? Then I can actually do those things. But it's really interesting. The first thing in my day really has to be the thing of the utmost passion. And if I don't do that, guess what? My nervous system is not going to get on board. My body's not going to get on board, right? And my brain's just going to be firing, like, it's going to be like, just sound firing off, like, all like every single moment, all the time. It's going to just be shooting off, like, in the ways that, in just fear. And that can be very uncomfortable, right? If you've experienced this, if you've experienced like PTSD or ADHD or any kind of mental suffering, that it's like, it could be a nightmare, right? And so your job really is like, it's to put yourself, you have to take so much care of yourself, right? Your entire day is built around that, as it should be, right? But the really beautiful thing with that is that you actually get to experience right, the outcome, like the creation and the products of that. So it's not such a bad thing, right? It's just part of your day. It's part of your your routine. And it actually, you'll notice that in the work that you create and build, it's actually your favorite thing for your body, right? When you watch your own stuff, or you read your own material, or you like consume like what your own creation, you'll realize like that, like, it soothes your nervous system to like no end, like more than anything. So yeah, that's the second thing, like, build to 100. And then the third thing is really lead, like attain mastery. And I'm thinking, like, I came out of my ADHD so much in the last 4 years. And how I did that was really at the beginning of each day, right? 3 to 6 hours a day I would spend meditating, or just clarifying, or focusing my attention like on a point, right? I would do this every day. And then when I was at a state of neutrality, then it just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm actually here. Like, there was such a contrast. And in my state of just like being present, like, that's when I really started to experience being present and knowing that I was present. And then just going through that process, and then when I was like, I guess just going through that process for me ultimately helped me attain mastery, right? Where I can teach and coach and help people who have struggled in the same way, who have suffered in the same way. And I can kind of show them, because I can see where they are in their journey, right? And I can see the sort of thoughts and the fear which is at the root of those thoughts, and how to sort of guide them out of that sort of mental movie that's playing here all the time. And that's that's a very difficult thing, and I don't know if many people actually come out of their ADHD in their life, right? It's like a very severe disorder. It's like a lifelong, condition that the brain literally just becomes programmed this way, right? And just remains like, and what it is, it's like there's been connections to people with ADHD and people who deeply feel, right? So this ability to feel deeply, and it makes sense because, well, there's so much energy, right? That's, if you feel a lot, it's emotion really is energy in motion. So you're experiencing a lot of emotion, right? And that emotion and your mind's best attempt to cope with that is literally just thought, right? So you get lost in your head. But if you can get yourself to a place where you can feel a lot of the stuff, like the pain, right, beneath the stories and in the thoughts here, you can do like a tremendous amount of healing and work to actually be present again. And that's something that's so I mean, unheard of. It was unheard of to me. I had no idea that the thing that I really was in need of was just feeling. So and then to think about it now, right? Once you attain mastery, right? Like I met a friend at my gym who I started like I love her so much, and it just happens naturally all the time where we talk about this stuff, right? And she's like the perfect person that I'm helping, even though I'm not officially helping, right? We just talk about all this stuff, and I'm helping and guiding her through her own experience of like, pleasing and self-abandonment and distortion and distraction and noise and suffering. And so it's really amazing, but it's almost like when you follow these 3 steps, then actually life actually puts you, it's like you make yourself ready to be able to serve. You make yourself ready to be able to lead. And I think that's really what we're seeking in our life, right? All of the distraction, even like the less than optimal decisions that we make, right? To like, oh, I'm going to choose something else instead of the best thing that I could do, right? At this given moment, or I'm not going to follow my routine today. I'm just going to sit in bed and watch something, right? Like even those things, right? What we actually ultimately want is our potential. We want the life that comes from this, right? And even if we don't want that, right, just to remember, right, like the outcome, the effect of how I feel when I do the things that I'm supposed to do, right? It's not really about anything else. It's always about how I feel. It's always about how I feel when I clean my room before I sit down and my desk is, perfectly clean, right? I wipe everything down, right? It's, or my bed is made, right? It's always about how I feel. It's not about anything else. And so to really figure out what puts you in the best state, right? And that involves regulating your nervous system. That involves increasing your dopamine. That involves like the healthy habits that you have. That involves creating, connecting, building, doing the best thing that you can do at any given moment, and knowing what that is and having your body like wholeheartedly committed to that. That will really be the best thing for you, right? And if you are wondering about how to live your potential, or how to pursue, right, the thing that you're meant to do, or how to be great, right, how to be successful in the way that you're supposed to, this is really the formula, right? You have to get yourself into an optimal state, and only you know what it is that will put you in that state. And so, right, a really wonderful thing is just to really write those things down, right? Like I know for me, what I need to do is record a YouTube video, and then post clips on social media platforms, record a podcast, right? Also post that and go through like post that on the platform, my podcast platform. And then also additionally, right? And I can alternate between those, right? So if, let's say, the speaking is not really helping my mind so much, maybe I need to write, right? So I can even feel my way, but I know I have certain things that I can pick from in the first 3 hours of the day. And guess what? If none of those things work, right, I'm out the door, I'm moving, right? I'm going for a walk, or I'm running, right? Or maybe I try going to the gym, right? And if that doesn't work, then I come back home and I'm doing like housework, because I know that I actually have to move my body, and maybe low impact stuff like, cleaning, or like, doing the laundry will like regulate my nervous system, right? Because it's something that I can actually help, focus my brain with while I'm actually moving my body somewhat. So I have an arsenal, and in the same way, you should have an arsenal. You should have a toolbox of like maybe 5 different things that you can do, right, to help regulate your nervous system, or in your case, or it doesn't have to be actually regulate your nervous system, but to put you in your optimal state, right? So maybe for you that looks like waking up and going to the gym first thing in the morning, right? I've tried that and played with that too, but that's not the first thing that my body wants to do. My body wants to create first thing in the day. It wants to do this, so I have to listen to that, because I experimented with that as well, and maybe that could be the case sometimes, right? But right now it's not. And so my first thing in the day, I really have to do this. And then for me, movement is something that comes later. But I really have to regulate. The way that I can actually regulate my nervous system the best right now is just by creating and expressing myself. So you will figure out what it is for you, and then follow that, play with that, right? Have an arsenal of like, maybe 5 things. Like for me, that's recording, right? Video, audio, recording a podcast, writing, moving my body, and household work, right? These are the 5 things that I know that I can do that will actually help put me into my optimal state, and I can play around with them. I could, juggle them. And let's say I can't create, right? But then I end up doing laundry and all of that stuff and cleaning my entire room. That's also good for me, right? That's maybe what I need to do that day. So just play around with it. And the ultimate goal is to figure out what can actually put you in the best state so that you can, again, build, right? Like work on the things that you need to work on. You can devote and put your attention there, right? You can help your family, you can help your partner, you can help your kids with their homework, right? You can work on the projects that maybe you're not as much, like you don't have as much passion in, or you're not as committed to, right? By doing the things in your day that you are the most passionate and committed to. And then later after that, right, as you build, right, to 100, right, you work on other things. That's also when you develop your capacity for mastery and your capacity to lead, and very many things that you'll actually realize, oh my gosh, I actually am building more skills, right, that I can actually attain mastery in, right? So let's say I'm making customer service calls, or I'm making sales calls to help my partner, right? I can actually, or my family business, or I'm helping my kids with their homework, right? If I get good enough, right, if I'm at my optimal state, guess what I am going to get? I'm going to improve so much in whatever I'm doing that I'm actually going to be able, I have more of a chance of attaining mastery. And let's say I start tutoring other kids, right? Helping them with their homework, right? Or let's say I start a sales company on my own. I start coaching people to have sales conversations, right? This is a very, very real thing. And this is often, this is how we develop skills. This is how I've gotten good at making customer service calls too, just talking to people, right? And so, and I realized a lot of these things, like especially new things, new skills, they have to be learned and developed from a place of a regulated nervous system, right? Because we only learn when we feel safe. So if your body is going through a lot right now, or just in general, right, and you're like, oh gosh, I really feel like I need to just work on the things that I'm most passionate and most committed to in the beginning of the day, then do that, because that's probably what you need to do. And then, less and less, passionate things like throughout the day. That's been the case for me. And, I have an ADHD like personality, and now actually saying it out loud, it really makes sense for me, because like literally the first things in the day are the things that I'm most interested about. And then my interest like dwindles, like, the activities that I'm doing, like, my interest, like, goes down. That's why I'll do like housework at the very end of the day. Maybe it's because I need like it requires like the least of my mental energy and mental capacity. So I don't know, that's just me, but I hope this is helpful to you. I love you. Oodles. And just don't worry about anything, right? You have the arsenal, you have the tools that will make you feel good. So even if you have a day here or there, just take it with grace, right? Like just go back to the thing that you love and you'll be okay. I promise. I love you. God bless you.